Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies have been on a solid tear over the last few weeks, but how long does this move have left? I've got Michael back on the channel today to go through short-term analysis on Bitcoin and the total cryptocurrency market caps. Don't go anywhere after this video. Stay tuned to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button as I have a new 4-year cycle video coming out looking at price predictions for Bitcoin in April and the second quarter of 2022. We also have a ton of new content coming out for our Patreon members. Link is in the top of the description. And if you sign up now, there's 16% off annual memberships and you get April for free. Now, here's Michael with the update.
If the altcoin season's caught you by surprise, I'd highly recommend you track the Bitcoin dominance chart. There were signs of this chart starting to fail over a month ago now, and as soon as this chart starts to trend down, that means the altcoins are going to be having a better run, or at least performing better than Bitcoin. Now that alts have been booming week over week, I guess the question most people have is this just the beginning? While I don't have all the answers because nobody does, I have a perspective you might find interesting. But first, welcome back to Jason's channel. I'm your host, Michael Pizzino. Thank you for joining me where you get to hear some of my opinions about the market, but no financial advice because I'm not a financial advisor. Always do your own research. After I give you my broad overview of where the markets are at, I'll jump over to Bitcoin and look at the short time frame charts. And if you're after more short-term trading and analysis, check out my channel, link will be in the description below. Looking at the total market cap now, we can see that the markets have been in a bit of a tear over the last couple of weeks. But the question is this just the beginning of a next major run, or is this just in fact a bear market rally after having been down for so long and this thing's going to correct and crash? And once again, I don't have all the answers because nobody does, but this game, at least for me, is looking at the probabilities and what could likely come up next. That obviously helps me look at reward to risk and anything else that I might find useful to make my trading and investing decisions. One of my favorite tools in the market is Gann's 50% tool. It gives me areas to look out for support and resistance, and it also gives me a bit of a clue as to whether we're going to be seeing a trend reversal or a trend continuation. To show you what I mean, I'll give you a few examples. From the all-time high down to the low that took place right around the 26th of November, we can see the market dumped, then corrected, and then the trend resumed. And if we take this one step further, and I have a couple more steps to show you, we can go once again from the all-time high down to the low on the 4th of December. Once again, we had the dump, correction, and then a continued downtrend. If that wasn't enough, it even happened once again, going from the top that took place on the 27th of December down to the low, the current major low on the 24th of January. Once again, the market dumped, corrected, and then started to fall again. Now, of course, this doesn't work all of the time, but it works often enough and gives me some clues as to what could be coming up next. Now, for me, this tool works on small time frames and big time frames. I've proven that to my satisfaction, and anybody wanting to use the tool will have to do the same. But if we have a look at where the market is right now, from the all-time high down to the current major low, are we seeing the same thing but on a bigger scale? Had the dump, now we're seeing a correction. Are we going to be seeing another top before the bigger trend does resume down again? I don't know, as nobody does know, but it's certainly something I'm keeping an eye out for. So with this in mind, I can keep my FOMO at bay and also have a bit of an upside target for where the market could reach. So now that we've looked at the big picture, let's jump over to Bitcoin so we can have a look at some of the key buying and selling zones on the small time frames. Starting out with Bitcoin on the daily chart, I like to start a little bit zoomed out to keep things in perspective, and then I zoom into the smaller time frame charts to really tune up what I'm looking at. On the screen, you can see the 50% level from the current all-time high down to the major low. This is comparable to what we looked at on the total market cap, and Bitcoin's price at 50% comes in at just under $51,000. I also have a couple of basic trend lines on the chart, and we can see when Bitcoin broke out just the other day, that's really where we got the acceleration. Now it's come back down to retest that trend line, and it started to move away once again. But something that's a little bit of a concern is that this trend line that's been calling this market on the entire move up is starting to break down. So I'm keeping a close eye on this, especially as I will be zooming in onto the smaller time frames. But overall, on the slightly bigger picture for Bitcoin, we can see we have a bunch of old tops coming in at about that $44,500. And as long as Bitcoin does remain above those tops, I'm more confident to think that this is more likely accumulation, setting Bitcoin up to reach that 50% level around that 51 grand, then distribution. But if the price is to start to drop below those previous tops, I'm going to be thinking we're going to be seeing a bigger correction on our hands as opposed to what we've just been seeing over the last week or so. So with that in mind, I can zoom into the small time frame charts. I'll start out with the 4-hour chart. We can really tune up these levels. Jumping over to Bitcoin on the 4-hour time frame, I have exactly the same trend lines, support and resistance levels, and 50% levels as I did on the daily chart. But what we can look at now is a few tighter levels for what could be coming up in terms of some buying and selling zones. Naturally, I look to old tops and bottoms as being key support and resistance levels, just as we saw here after Bitcoin fell into the trend line a little bit below, but also we had those previous tops from a few days prior that acted as support. So if Bitcoin does continue to fall, I'll be looking at these same levels to be potential support coming up. And really getting into the weeds with where Bitcoin's at, we have that little intermediate top and the previous low. We can see that Bitcoin is currently finding support dead on that 50% level at just under $46,000. So if price does remain above here, that means it's a slightly more bullish position for Bitcoin to be, and there's every chance it's going to be breaking its tops to close in on that 50 to 51,000 bucks. And once again, if the price does break back below and hold below that line, it's not the end of the world, because we have those previous bottoms that could continue to act as support. We just might see some sideways churn, Bitcoin needing some more time to reaccumulate before making its mind up as to which way it wants to go. A few of the other overhead trend lines I'll be looking at is from the current top down to the previous lower top, and also the current top down to the last top we just saw, just about there. And we can extend these lines to the right to give us something in the future to look forward to in terms of some more support and resistance. And obviously we'll be battling it from the underside, which means it's going to be likely resistance when the price does, or if the price does continue to climb from here. So as of right now, things are still sitting in a reasonably healthy position for Bitcoin and crypto overall. We can see it is just hugging this trend line rather closely. It'd be nicer if it was sitting on top of the trend line, but these things do oscillate around here and there. But I do believe if Bitcoin is able to get beyond its previous tops, at least this top here, and then obviously we have those previous tops, there's a bit of open ground for Bitcoin to potentially reach that 50-odd thousand bucks if it does continue with its momentum on the upside. So overall, crypto's been on a bit of a tear for the last couple of weeks. Now, after being up for so long, consecutive weeks, and some markets even consecutive days, I always remain conscious of the fact that FOMO, hype, and a bit of greed might be getting sucked into the market. What that means for me is there's every chance we're going to be seeing some more false breaks to the upside, so I'm keeping that in mind. Nevertheless, we've looked at the big picture, and one possible scenario I'm looking out for to potentially come up, as well as Bitcoin on the small time frame charts. And in light of trying to keep balances, so looking at both the upside and the downside of the market, so I'm not getting sucked into one point of view. We've got our levels on the chart for what we could be seeing in terms of some support and resistance. If you're after some more short-term trading and analysis, check out my channel, link will be in the description below, and go and do some shit and you'll probably have fun, something like that. Until next time, I'll catch you then.